find that thing that you used to be so passionate about when you were younger. Start writing down, make a list of things that you did as a child, as a teenager, things that you used to talk about or dream about. Start dreaming again. People stop dreaming after a certain point in their lives because they think it's too late for them to do anything else.
Welcome to another edition of Step by Step Talks. I'm your host, Rohini Kapoor, and today I have a guest that I am so proud to have on our show, not only because she promotes Step by Step Talks motto, but she's actually done it and proved that it can happen. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you.
Karen Duncan, and I've read that I'm quoting this, is known as the lady from fear to fierce. And I want you to talk about that, as we get further into our podcast. But for the sake of the audience, Karen is a very famous singer in Panama. And you're going to share your story with us and how you got there. And how did you get the title from fear to fierce?
Well, that comes from me deciding that I was no longer going to let fear rule my life. A lot of things that I'm just now doing in my 60s, I was fearful of earlier in my life. That's what stopped me from doing the things that I wanted to do. And so now I dropped the fear, and now I'm fierce about moving forward with my life and doing the things that make me feel good, and and fulfilling my purpose, actually.
So let's go back. You're from Chicago,
Yes.
and you lived in Chicago until you're in your 40s and 50s.
I was in Chicago till I was 17.
Oh, till you were 17.
And I went to college in Texas.
Oh, you went to college in Texas. And what did you pursue as when you were studying?
Ah, I was a recreation and park administration major.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that is a big.
I know. And people say, "Oh, so you majored in playing?" Oh, you're like, "Yeah, that's what I majored on." Yes, I did.
Yeah, oh, wow, that's amazing.
But there's a piece of that has transformed into this part of my life. It's about leisure. It's about taking time for yourself and understanding that your leisure life is just as important as your professional life.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, yeah. I definitely would put a stamp on that because that is very true. Now, you started singing actually in church when you were young.
Yes.
So you were a church singer.
Yes.
And then from a church singer, you decided later on in life, you want to sing like Tina Turner, like Cher, like Donna Summers, which you do. And I think you're fantastic because I've seen you do it.
Yeah.
Do you want to share what happened in between how did you get into it? What happened?
It's really kind of wild because I grew up singing as a child in church. And even through young adult, when my children were very small, I was singing in church. But I always had the fear of stepping beyond that. I had people that said, you should sing. But I was scared to death. And so I would only sing when I went on vacation. I'd do karaoke because I figured if nobody liked me, I'd never see those people again.
Okay.
I get to Panama 7 years ago, and 6 years ago, a friend of mine whose husband had a band. They were performing, and we went to see them. And I just kind of walked up to her and said, if they ever need a backup singer, let them know that I might be interested. And I was really kind of kidding, you know. She told him that evening during his break, and he invited me on stage that very night. Now and had me do some backup. So, I did it. And that happened a couple of more times. And he finally said, "Why don't you come to rehearsal with us?" And I started going to rehearsals. And so then I became a backup singer for his band. Um, about a year or so later, the bass player and I broke off and started what we call duo, DUHO. And actually recorded some EPs, two EPs. One's called Panama Paradise. That was the first one. And he was a great mentor. He was a professional musician all of his life out of Germany. And he basically nurtured me and brought me out of that fear factor and gave me the confidence that I needed to actually go on stage and sing every week.
This was here in Panama.
You're in Panama.
Wow. So you had no other training in
None.
States at all
None.
before coming.
None.
So it all happened here.
All happened.
That is just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then he left a couple years ago. He and his wife decided to move to Thailand just out of the blue.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, now what am I going to do? I don't know how to do this by myself.
Right.
A friend of ours asked me to perform for, he said, we need you to be a performer for the performers. It was a Christmas picnic for the people at the Emotions Dinner Theater. The owner wanted to do something special for the cast. And I was a surprise to them. They didn't know I was coming.
Okay.
So I did it. And that day, the owner asked me, he said, everyone has come up to me and said, we've got to have her at the theater. Um, would you be interested in doing a residency at the Hilton? And I said, I guess I've never done that before. So let's see what that looks like. And I've been there now about a year and a half.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah.
And every show is always full. There's up in there. Right? Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So as you started and you got into singing more and you got on stage, how did your stage fright go away? That would be, something stage fright is something that not only comes with singing, it's very fright, but anything new that you're going to do.
Yeah.
And a lot of people back away. And I know a lot of my audience, women who start something, then don't do it because they get scared.
Exactly.
It's not going to work. Did that come into your mind?
Oh, the very first show that I did with Volker, the guitar player, out at the beaches area, I was frozen in space. I mean, I could not move my feet. I just felt like I just was gonna fall apart. My husband said to me, "I've never seen you this afraid of anything," because he's used to me just moving forward and stepping forward. I was in sales all my life.
Yeah.
So I always had to walk into a room of strangers that I did not know,
Right.
and have a presence and try to develop relationships with these people in order for them to do business with me.
Right.
That was scary. I'm an only child. And so for me to walk into a lot of times where I was the only black or brown person in the environment, I had to overcome that fear.
Yeah.
And so I think over the years, I've just learned I'm going to be afraid, but being afraid doesn't mean you should not do it. It just means that you need to get past being afraid. And it gets easier as you do it. The more I go on stage, the more comfortable I become. Now, when circumstances change or the environment change and I'm doing something brand new, then I'm just as afraid as I was that very first. That I did it, but the more you do it, the more comfortable you become.
The more comfortable.
And you don't die.
No.
Fear does not kill you.
No, it does scare. No, it does scare. I remember I was in sales all my life too.
Yeah.
And I remember my manager telling me that I said, I'm really scared. He said, if you were not scared, I'd be worried.
Right.
He says, I want you to be scared
Exactly.
because you got to overcome that to go to the next step.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
That's just pretty amazing. Now, you decided to sing like Tina Turner, Donna Summers, Cher. Those 3 different voices.
Totally.
Yeah. And so you are an extremely talented person.
Thank you.
How do you manage that?
Well, I grew up, my dad loved music and had lots and lots of albums when I was growing up, from Frank Sinatra to Dionne Warwick and Nancy Wilson, Barbra Streisand. The Barbra Streisand was one of my favorites. And because I was an only child and I was home alone a lot, I would listen to music. I would listen to his albums. So I have a huge range of artists that I like to listen to. My uncle was Charlie Pride, the first black country and western singer in the United States.
Oh.
And so I have a large range of genres that I listen to. But I like a woman with an amazing voice. See, there are women that sing now that are very popular.
Yeah.
And they're very wealthy.
Yeah.
But not all of them have amazing voices. And so I literally studied the women that I thought had the most amazing voices. And so Tina Turner came to me. She didn't necessarily have the best voice.
No.
She was a great entertainer.
Yeah.
But you know what drew me to her was her tenacity to overcome the trials and tribulations she went through, and she came back in her 40s. And so I always said it. Whenever I grow up, I want to be like Tina Turner, only because she showed me that it was never too late to do what it was that you needed to do. and she's just a great entertainer. Barbara Streisand has an amazing voice. Cher wasn't a great is an amazing artist as well. And Donna Summers, of course, all of them are legends, and they're on their own way. And so I have just studied strong, amazing talents that I like to emulate.
So when you say study, do you would play it yourself or
Yeah, I just would sing anytime I could, just by myself.
just so that's amazing because you wanted to pursue a career.
Well, I didn't. I didn't know that that's what I was doing.
Uh-huh. Okay.
I think at one point in my life, yes, when I was very young, I said I wanted to be a singer, but it wasn't encouraged because you were going to go to college, you were going to, which I have a regular job, a regular career. And so it never really became one of those things that I said, I'm going to go on stage and I'm going to be a singer. Even when I got to Panama, to be doing what I'm doing right now is nothing less than God telling me that this was what I was supposed to be doing all along because of the way it happened. I'm very grateful that I discovered it. I didn't leave this earth without having discovered my passion and my purpose.
You are a very, very fortunate lady.
Yeah.
Because not everybody gets to
You're exactly right.
yeah, not everybody gets to experience that. Now, let's talk about some setbacks that you've had since you came to Panama. Because, we can say, yeah, okay, we've got here, we're doing great, but every one of us went through setbacks before we got to where you are.
Yeah.
What kind of setbacks did you go through? And this is more to encourage my audience to know that even a setback doesn't mean you have to stop.
Right.
You mean that you have to carry on.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, mine actually starts before I get to Panama. Initially, when my husband and I got married, we dated 5 years. We're a combined family. It's our second marriages. Within 9 months of us getting married and building a house, he lost his job. Uh, that was tough. We had to go through some trials and tribulations because of that. I was running my own business at the time. Things were just really, really tough. That was probably the beginning of me learning what it was to go through life and challenges in life. We had young kids. We had 4 kids between us that were going to have to go through college and the whole works, right? Um, and then because of the stress, I developed autoimmune problems. I was very sick for a while. Couldn't even walk up my own stairs at home. And I was on medications, very strong, powerful medication, and I just kind of looked at my life and said, I'm not going down like this. I'm not going to let a diagnosis determine what my life is going to look like. I've got babies I've got to take care of. I've got too much to live for. And so we went through some trials and tribulations, health-wise, financially, for many, many years. And that's when I discovered meditation. I started doing the 21-day challenges that with Deepak Chopra and Oprah Winfrey, because I figured whatever Oprah touched turned to gold, and I needed some of that gold at the moment, right? And so I started meditating, and that, when I look back now, is when my life began to transform. Slowly but surely, there were jobs I had to take due to financial situations that I did not like. I hated them, to be honest.
But you needed them.
And I needed them, yeah, so I dealt with it. But I also found that when you do that sometimes, they can also make you sick. That can make you ill. And so as I began to notice my body responding positively or negatively to circumstances, I would change my circumstances. And I have had some good jobs that I've quit. And, and my parents and everybody said, how could you dare quit a job like that? Well, if I didn't, I was going to die. At least that's the way I felt. I was literally going to die, but I felt like I would be okay. I'm just had the confidence in myself that I would be able to move forward from that. And I have. And so step by step, my life transformed. I began to discover the things that motivated me, yeah, and inspired me. And I started to make those my areas of profession. I opened my own travel agency and even went back to school and got my master's in recreation, sports, and tourism management and became an adjunct professor at the local college. That's when I just started discovering what made me happy. And from there, it started getting better financially, physically, medically, everything started to change. And then, we were still going through this cycle with my husband being in high tech in the Austin, Texas area, layoffs, bringing him back, layoffs, bringing him back. He finally said, I'm just ready to retire. Oh, okay. I was obsessed with House Hunters International, the TV show. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I said, you know, other people are doing it. Why can't we retire someplace else? And that's how we discovered Panama.
Oh, you came through House Hunters, did you?
Well, they ended up filming an episode of with us for the show once we moved here. But it was then that things really began to change because I started doing my meditation group, and I do a daily affirmation, that I send. Up Facebook. Yeah, I send out daily affirmations. I do a weekly meditation group online with a group of ladies. And I do believe that because I give of myself through something that I'm very passionate about, my life and just transitioned to be what it is right now. And things are working perfectly.
So then you went through the major setback, but you didn't let go. You just continued working. So then you just transitioned into Panama.
Yeah.
And moving into Panama. Yeah. And I mean, that alone, moving into a new country, not knowing and
No.
there's a fear factor.
Yeah.
And very few people would do that.
And we had never been here before.
And you had never been here, so you just decided one day, all right, we're out of here.
Yeah.
We're going to Panama.
Yeah.
And when you came here, what happened?
Well, we moved out to the beaches area and I joined Beach Business Networking Group, a networking group, and which is kind of my safe place with being able to meet new people. The scary part that was so scary for me in my professional life became the way that I found friends and a community here at Panama through networking.
Yeah.
And they actually made me the executive director of that organization when the original owner and creator moved away. And I just I found a niche. I found a space. I just found the community that was welcoming and then the music came about, and that took off and Panama has just been really good for us emotionally and everything.
That's amazing. Now, your son is a singing, let's say,
Yeah.
right? And he sings on cruise ship.
Yes.
So did you get him involved into the singing?
He was born with that. No, he started playing piano at 2 by ear.
Oh.
And I say he came out singing because he's always been singing. We have pictures of him when he was 18 months old with a microphone in his hand. And so he sang early in life and then ended up at Berklee College of Music in Boston. Yeah, and very good music school. That's very hard to get into. Very expensive, but it was working. And so he's a working musician now, which is the only thing you can hope for when your child, is very focused on one area of life. Very young. I mean, he knew very young
That he wanted to sing.
that's what he was going to do.
And have you sung with him? Do you do?
I did
do it?
one time
Yeah.
on a cruise. He surprised me and pulled me out of the audience on one of the cruises and sang a song. Yeah, well, they both cried like babies. It was amazing. So now we're trying to get him to come to Panama. We're going to try and get him here soon so that he can do his show that he does on the ships here.
That is amazing. I mean, if your son sings as well and you do it too.
Oh, he's the talent. He's the real talent.
And who does he sing like? Oh, he's got his soul.
It's really, he's a mix because he does some R&B, some Motown R&B as part of his show, but he's actually a country singer. He writes and performs country music.
Like U.S. called.
Yeah, I'm very talented writer. That's what he ended up majoring in, songwriting. And he could not read music before he went to college.
Oh, so he had to learn how to.
He had to learn to read.
But he could hear it and play.
Yeah.
He was so, wow, very tight. Yeah, definitely very tight.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, that's amazing. So now, as you progress, what is your future? What are you looking at? Yeah, because I don't think you're a person who can stop.
No, I'll never.
You're a person who's going to keep going.
Yeah.
Which is something I think you want to tell all the audience, our audience, and the women that you don't stop.
Yeah, you don't.
Just keep going on. You don't something.
Once you've once you tap into your purpose and your passion, there's no need to stop, first and foremost. Um, I've always said I was never going to be that person to retire. And I found out by living out at the beach because it was very tranquilo, very calm, very just so much. It was too much so. And I didn't even realize how much until I moved to the city. And it's just the energy of this city that gives me life because there's more to do, more people to see, more, it's just more excitement. But, I started a singing career at 59 and a half years old. People don't people don't think you can do that.
No.
God blessed me with good health. So right now I'm healthy and I figure I'm gonna do it as long as my body holds up and I could dance like Tina Turner. She didn't retire till she was 78. So I've got 14 more years now.
You look amazing. I'm feeling Karen. It's just I can't even say, Annie. Thank you. That's and I think it's your passion and your love for what you're doing is this making you you blossom.
I thank you for that. And I just think that it's never too late for us to decide, especially as women, because we do go through so many phases in our lives. We're daughters and then we're mothers and wives and career women. And a lot of times we have to make decisions that support the family.
Yeah.
That may not be what we necessarily would have chosen for ourselves.
Exactly.
But once we have the opportunity to then do so, we should. And I tell people all the time, because what I have found since moving to Panama is people retire and then they don't know what to do to themselves.
That's like a lot of women here who said that to.
They don't know what to do. They feel lost. They feel depressed. Some people want to move back to their home countries because they just can't find their space here in Panama. And I tell them all the time, find that thing that you used to be so passionate about when you were younger. Start writing down, make a list of things that you did as a child, as a teenager, things that you used to talk about or dream about. Start dreaming again. People stop dreaming after a certain point in their lives because they think it's too late for them to do anything else.
Exactly.
And we have to continue dreaming. It's never too late to have a dream.
So I think that is the first step that we're going to put in our step-by-step talks. And I think that would be stop dreaming, start dreaming, and think about what you wanted to do.
Right.
And then decide where you want to go.
Where you want to go. And once you, some people do things as a hobby, begin to do things as hobbies, photography, writing,
Yeah.
Poems, meditation, teaching yoga.
Right.
It may start out as a hobby, but if it's something you were meant to do and it was your passion years ago, then you'll be very surprised at how financially rewarding that can be.
If you're looking for the financial.
If you're looking for the
Yeah.
financial reward.
Exactly.
A lot of people that's how I started my travel agency, to be honest. I went to a seminar where they said, find something you would do for no pay at all. Like that you would wake up every morning and be excited about. And mine was traveling.
Right.
I could live in a hotel. I live in a hotel.
Yeah.
I could travel the world and be just absolutely happy. And so that's why I went into the travel business, because I wanted to teach others the benefits of traveling the world and getting outside their box that we tend to be in when we stay within our own communities.
Right.
Understand different cultures and foods. So understanding that if you can just sit back and dream about or think about what you were so passionate about years ago. That's the first step.
First step. That's right. Okay. And then second step.
The second step is once you find what it is that you're excited about, either take classes, educate yourself, join a networking group or an interest groups, where you can meet other people with the same interests and passions. And get out and do things with those people. When you're around like-minded people, it motivates you to continue your journey, as opposed to if you're only doing it in your house. You know how many musicians sit in their house that are amazing musicians, but they're afraid to step out on stage.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
thousands, millions.
They're just afraid to get on stage.
They're afraid. So they sit in their bedrooms or in their house. They play guitar for themselves. They create amazing music, but nobody gets to hear it because they're afraid to step out and they're afraid to do whatever it is that they need to do to get seen.
One thing Step by Step talks always says is that you never make a mistake. Mistake is an experience. Failure does not exist in our vocabulary. There is no failure. Everything is an experience, and you learn through that when you get better from it, right? But if you look at it as failure and sort of eats up into you, that fear factor is never going to get out.
Right. And we all have challenges in life. We all have to walk through some form of fire to get to the next step. But all that does is make us stronger. Because if you really think about where you come from, the experiences you've had in the past, some are good, some are bad.
Right.
And when you were living in that one bad situation that you thought was a living hell at that particular time, guess what? You're still here today.
Yeah.
You walked through it, and that's all done. It's all done. And you have the tenacity. You can survive anything.
This too shall pass.
Right?
Right? This
That'd
too
be
shall
great.
pass. Right. Yeah. And when you're right in the middle of crisis, and no fault to anybody, you don't know what to do. I know sometimes your mind gets jumbled, your body starts getting ill, you're so stressed out. And it's always good to find somebody you can talk to, or listen to podcasts, or listen to people who worked through challenges. You've been through health challenges, financial challenges, but you didn't let anything stop you.
Right.
And you've progressed. And I'm sure your children, they're following you because of what you've done. You're the role model.
That's my hope. I keep telling them I'm not leaving them any money. I'm going to leave you this sense of adventure and the ability to live through anything. I will leave them a little money, but it's not going to be, my thing is I want them to have their own experiences and I want them to strive for their own successes. So
of course, so then you need to enjoy it.
Exactly.
You're given so much. That's time to get back. Exactly, right? When is your next show? When is your next big one? What are you looking?
So I'm currently working Wednesday through Saturday evening. So I have a show tonight with the cast. This is the whole cast does this show. I was just talking to the owner yesterday about when I should do my next Divas in Paradise. That's the one show. Yeah, that's the one woman show. It's a hard time in Panama right now because it's slow season.
Yeah.
So a lot of expats go back to their home countries during this time of the year. And so I'd usually like to wait till August or September, somewhere around that time.
Not good.
But it kind of depends on when I can get Edwin here. I may need to have one before because if he takes another contract on the ship, it'll probably be in the fall.
And when he sails, which ship is he sailing on?
Well, we don't know yet.
So he's got to decide our ship with this, and then he's on the ship for a few months.
Yeah, about 6 months. Yeah.
Well, for about 6 months. Yeah. Wow, it's an amazing life, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah. Except he can't cook or clean for himself because it's all.
It's all that I do. That is it is. So we'll be hoping to see you in your next show in August.
Yeah.
And what is any other tips that you'd like to give our audience?
We need to take time to sit quiet with ourselves, to allow ourselves to undo some of the negative talk that we do to ourselves. We're our worst critics, I say. We tend to tell ourselves the negative things that we've heard about ourselves or we've said to ourselves over and over and over. 60 to 80,000 of our thoughts are the same that they were yesterday, or 80% of those 60 to 80,000. And so we have to learn to be our biggest advocates for ourselves by speaking positively about the things that we know we can do. And find those little things in the day that bring you joy and bring you bliss and bring you happiness. Even when you're going through bad times, because that's the only way you're going to get through it and you live in the present. Don't worry about what happened in the past because we can't change it. And the future hasn't happened yet. So you can't control it. So you have to just live within that moment and sitting in silence. That's why the meditation is such a big thing for me. It's because I've learned that I just need to let my mind rest sometimes. And there's no way to stop your thoughts, even when you're meditating. But we do have moments in between times where we learn of what our passions are. We learn what our next steps are. They're the answer to our prayers that we've been looking for. And just give yourself an opportunity to discover yourselves,
Before
your authentic self. Yeah.
before moving forward. And that's such a good piece of advice because when we do have a crisis, all we do is, we're consumed with our negativity and we just keep thinking of, oh, we become a victim.
Yeah.
And that's the worst scenario to be in, is to become a victim.
Right.
If you can overcome that, then you can move to the next step and see clear.
Yeah.
Right. So to get into that, clear picture, you need to meditate.
Exactly.
You need to get your mind sucking down.
Exactly.
So I think a tip number one would be sit down quietly, even if it's a week or 2 weeks, and just think of what you want to do
Exactly.
before you move forward. And our tip to you today is that nothing is a failure.
No.
It's all experience. So if you've done something negative, or you think you've done something wrong, or failure came to you, or got divorced, or you had a setback, you lost a job, it's not you.
Right.
Yeah, it's just life.
Blessings and adversity is my motto.
I love that.
Blessings and adversity. There's always a blessing, even when you're going through the hardest times. We just have to be able to sit still for a moment to realize what that blessing is that's being told to us or taught to us or shown to us. That's going to step out of that.
Yeah,
Just going to come to us.
it does. I mean, sometimes it takes time. Could take a week. It could take 2 weeks. It could take a day. Yeah. Or just the light, the flash bulb just goes and exactly. This is what I want to do, right? But take the time and give it to yourself so that you can move forward.
I agree.
Right? I want to thank you so much for being my guest today. Absolutely. And we will be definitely at your next show. And I'm not going to ask you to sing here, but we will come to podcast when you're actually. That's a great idea. I think Joffa and I will be there and get get a nice video of you all.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anything else to share with the audience?
Well, we talked about women having their own financial stability. And all I wanted to say about that was when you find your happy place, it is a good idea if you can transition it into something that it can benefit you financially, but it doesn't always have to. But as women, we should make sure that we put a little bit aside for that time that we might need it. Have that little account or put it under the pillow, wherever you need to have it so that you have some money. And sometimes you just need to treat yourself, even if it's for no other reason than to treat yourself.
Yeah. Even if you're running, a home and, the expenses and bills, I always say put $100 aside a month even, You never know when you're going to need it. Forget about it.
Yeah.
Because there will be a day you will need that.
Absolutely.
All right. So financial independence is very important for women. Financial literacy for children is very important. So if they learn that growing up, then when they're older, they will hopefully not fall into crisis like, we did in our eras when as we progressed in our careers and in our family lives, there's always a setback.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much. If you like our show today, please hit share, subscribe, and like. And I look forward to seeing you again. And I will thank Carrie for joining us today. And wish you a lot of success because I think you're an amazing person.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Bye.